I'm ready now. Good morning, Westfield. It is Wednesday, July 17th. You're listening to WSKD 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in studio this morning. We are back at Westfield State University, and behind the board is Jay Pagluca. So, Jay, thank you so much for joining me this morning in the absence of Pete Coles, who's a little under the weather.
No worries at all. Glad to help always.
Thank you. So we are we're here trying to do all the technical stuff. So we're going to start out before I bring my guest on, just so that you know why I chose the music that I chose this morning. So we're going to start out with some famous July 17th birthdays. So it is the birthday today of the late Phyllis Diller, actress, comedian, born July 17th, 1917 in Lima, Ohio. She died on August 20th, 2012 at 95 years old. So Phyllis lived to a ripe old age of 95. She was first noticed as a contestant on Groucho Marx's game show, and she went on to become a successful comedian, actress, and author, recognizable by her wild hair, eccentric costumes, overdone makeup. Now, who can say that Phyllis Diller has overdone makeup? Come on. Self-deprecating humor and her exaggerated cackling laugh. Diller was a groundbreaking stand-up comic, one of the first female comics to become a household name in the United States. In 1992, she received the American Comedy Award for Lifetime Achievement. But what you might not know about Phyllis Diller was that she was also an accomplished pianist and author. So, you know, we all have those surprises that nobody knows about. Hidden talents, that's right. So happy birthday to the late Phyllis Diller. July 17th is also the birthday of the late Gordon Gould. Gordon Gould is a physicist. He was born July 17th, 1920 in New York City. He died in 2005 at the age of 85, and he's probably not a household name, but what he sort of discovered/invented is he was an American physicist who played an important role in early laser research. In 1957, Gordon Gould coined the term laser, which, by the way, is an acronym. Here's one for Pete's trivia. We might want to throw this into the trivia category at some point. Laser stands for light amplification by stimulated emissions of radiation. Who knew? I thought it was just a word. I didn't realize it was an acronym.
For the record, I knew.
You did?
I was watching Jay mouth the words as you were.
Luca is so smart. And besides that, I want you on my trivia team next time.
It's the field I work in.
That's that's the one trivia question that you're always going to get right.
That's the only one I'm going to get. Well,
okay.
Between me and my brother, we know all the answers.
Oh, there you go.
Right.
There you go.
And if you're an evil genius, you got it.
Yeah, there you go. So this light amplification by stimulated emissions of radiation succinctly described the narrow but intense beams of light that are now widely used, from reading your supermarket barcodes and CD players to surgery and measurements in space.
And they're probably in that little printer in your office, too.
I think they're everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I think they're in places that we don't even realize they're in. Oh, new and interesting sounds. Okay.
Email.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so happy birthday to the late Gordon Gould. It is also the birthday of singer, writer, actress Gail Garnett. She was born July 17th, 1942 in New Zealand. She is 77 years old today. Garnett was born in Auckland, New Zealand, and moved to Canada with her family when she was 11. She made her public singing debut in 1960, while at the same time pursuing an acting career, making guest appearances on television shows such as 77 Sunset Strip. Gail Garnett is best known in the United States for her self-penned Grammy-winning folk hit, We'll Sing in the Sunshine. You'll all recognize that when we play that in a few minutes. Garnett has since carved out a career as a writer and actress. It is also the birthday of Mike Vale, bass player, singer, songwriter, born July 17th, 1949. He is 70 years old today. From the spring of 1966 through 1970, while signed to New York-based Roulette Records, Tommy James and the Shondells released 20 singles, all of which charted nationally and 10 of which were certified gold. And Mike Vale was the bass player for Tommy James and the Shondells. I love it when these great groups have somebody who has a birthday thrown in there, because then it allows us to play. And Tommy James and the Shondells had some great, fun music.
You don't need to have an excuse to play this stuff.
But I like to tie it all in
Okay.
together. That's the idea. We're tying it in together. So Tommy James and the Shondells released 12 albums, 2 of which were certified platinum. Over the 2-year period from 1968 through 1969, they were the largest selling singles act in the world. Hits included Crystal Blue Persuasion, Crimson and Clover, Mony Mony, Sweet Cherry Wine, and I Think We're Alone Now, and about 100 other really fun, great songs. So happy birthday, happy 70th birthday to Mike Vale of Tommy James and the Shondells. It is also the birthday of, we had a lot of people born on July 17th. I'd have to count back 9 months and sort of figure, that was in like the dead of winter. So I think that's what was going on back then. People were trying to keep warm.
Halloween.
And started having babies. Halloween?
Yep.
There you go.
About 10 months ago.
Okay. Donald Sutherland, actor Donald Sutherland, was born in 1935 on this date in St. John, Canada. He's 84 years old today. Donald Sutherland's film career spans more than 5 decades. Sutherland rose to fame after starring in a series of successful films, including The Dirty Dozen, MASH, Clute, Animal House, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Ordinary People, and Eye of the Needle. And he had a whole bunch more, but that's quite a list.
Kelly's Heroes was one of my favorites.
Was one of the other ones?
He was the tank commander called Oddball.
Who would know this? Like who? Yeah, Jay. Who would know this? I swear, I think it's whoever sits behind that board, because Pete's the same way. He just starts throwing this stuff out there, and I'm like, seriously, who knows this? As Pete says, lots of useless trivia in the head, but
always with them negative waves, man. Always with them negative waves.
Donald Sutherland subsequently established himself as one of the most respected, prolific, and versatile character actors of Canada. He later went on to star in many other successful films where he appeared either in leading or supporting roles such as JFK, Outbreak, A Time to Kill, Cold Mountain, Pride and Prejudice, and the Hunger Games franchise. So happy 84th birthday to Donald Sutherland. And we still have a couple more because Halloween time was very busy back then, and that's why we have all these July 17th birthdays.
October, you know,
yeah, that whole October thing. Yeah, there you go.
go.
So it's the birthday, and this is for my husband Gary, because he thinks this woman was just beautiful. It is the birthday of Diane Carroll, actress, singer, model. She was born July 17th, 1935 in the Bronx, New York. She's 84 years old today. Diane Carroll attended Manhattan School of Performing Arts and worked as a nightclub singer and model before making her Broadway debut. Films included Claudine, No Strings, and I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It wasn't until she was cast as the lead in the TV series Julia in 1968, however, that Carroll became a bona fide celebrity. The role made her the first African-American woman to star in her own television series. She was nominated for an Emmy for Julia in 1969 and won the Golden Globe Award in 1968. Carroll is also well known for her role as jet setter Dominique Devereaux on Dynasty, that was in the mid-1980s, and she received her 3rd Emmy nomination in 1989 for her role on A Different World. Most recently, Diane Carroll has made recurring guest appearances on the hit drama Grey's Anatomy. So happy 84th birthday to singer, actress, model Diane Carroll, who is still, by the way, gorgeous at the age of 84. Like I kept looking for, this whole series of pictures of her on the internet. So I was like, okay, where is the picture of her old and wrinkled and gray? And it's not happening. She looks fabulous. She's like my new role model. And finally, July 17th, it is the birthday of drummer Chet McCracken. He was born July 17th, 1952 in Seattle, Washington. He is 67 years old today. So good news for you, Chet. You can now, if you have not started collecting your Social Security benefits, you are now entitled to your full benefits. So There you have it. A former member of the Doobie Brothers. So thank you again for having a birthday, because wow, I got the Doobie Brothers and Tommy James and the Shondells. So we're going to have some great music this morning. Chet McCracken played the drums for the group from 1979 to 1982, and then again in 1987, and then again in 1995. The Doobie Brothers has had a plethora of members since its inception in 1970. Now, Jay, you'll know this. This is trivia, but this is for Jay. They employ official members and a small group of touring musicians, usually with a core group shown in promotional material. So then they have all these other, like, extra backup people.
A lot of studio and touring. You're right.
Yeah.
That's a grueling thing.
It sure is. Now, their hits included, and this is another one, I could have gone on for like 6 pages. What a Fool Believes, Blackwater, Listen to the Music, China Grove, Taking It to the Streets, Take Me in Your Arms, Rock Me, Minute by Minute, and It Keeps You Running. And of course, the Doobie Brothers also plays our theme song for Dr. Akinyele Lovelace, which is The Doctor, which it took me about a year to find that one after Dr. Lovelace started, coming on the show as a monthly.
And that was released, I believe, in the late 80s. I got to look that up.
Yes, that one was one of the later ones, I think. Right. But it's so perfect for our theme for Dr. Lovelace. So happy birthday to...
Long Train Running. You didn't list Long Train
Running. There were a whole bunch that I didn't list. I just thought, my God, we'll just spend the whole time talking about birthdays and famous people and singers and musicians and so forth, and Doobie music and Shondell music and all that great stuff. Okay, so those are some of the famous birthdays. And before we get on with it, because now I'm all messed up on my time and I'm not really sure where I am. Is it time for a break yet?
Okay, yeah, we're okay. Yeah.
Tell you what, let me do July's National Picnic Month, so we're going to talk about that, then we'll take a break, and then we're going to bring our guest on. So July is National Picnic Month. National Picnic Month encourages you to get out and celebrate the warm summer days and find your love and wonder of the outdoors again while enjoying some great food. Throughout the recorded history of civilization, there has always been something special about leaving the stuffy confines of your home and eating a meal outdoors. The word picnic is thought to have first been used by Tony Willis in 1692, and from that point forward, everyone from the working class to the upper crust have been fascinated with taking their repast outside under the sky. Picnics have been used for many things throughout the centuries, from a simply a family gathering spent enjoying the outdoors, to being used as a peaceful protest in the Pan-European picnic, which was held on the Hungarian-Austrian border in 1989. The most notable and largest picnic ever held spanned 600 miles, crossing France from coast to coast, and celebrated the millennium's first Bastille Day in the year 2000. Who knew that? Such a diverse resume for such a simple concept, don't you think? Picnic Month celebrates the history of this activity and the way it has been used to bring families, countries, and all humanity together. It's important to keep the meals simple and focus on the company. Sandwiches, finger foods, and beverages may seem plain, but it's more about spending time with each other and being with nature. So happy July National Picnic Month to all of you. Get out there and have a picnic, do it we have Stanley Park. We have, do it in your backyard. We used to make it fun when Grace was little. We would just do, picnic in the backyard and, just take the food outside. It just makes it more fun. All right. I'm not going to throw out times, but anyway, we're going to take a short break. So our first song, do we have our first song queued up? This is Gail Garnett. This is We'll Sing in the Sunshine. You'll recognize this song, and this is in honor of her birthday today. When we come back, we will have our guest.
We'll sing in the sunshine. We'll laugh every day. We'll sing in the sunshine. Then I'll be on my way. I will never love you. The cost of love's too dear. But though I never love you, miss you every night. But darling, don't cling to me. I'll soon be out of sight. But we can sing in the sunshine. We laugh every day. We'll sing in the sunshine. Then I'll be on my way. My daddy, he once told me, hey, don't you love you any man? Just take what they may give you and give but what you can. And you can sing in the sunshine. You laugh every day. You'll sing in the sunshine. Then be on your way. And when our year has ended and I have gone away, you'll often speak about me, and this is what you'll say. We sang in the sunshine. You know we laughed every day. We sang in the sunshine. Then she went on her way.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, Internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com.
Wednesday mornings start off right from 6 to 8 a.m. with Tina Gorman and Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. 89.5 WSKB.
Now I'm on. Good morning. This is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. It is Wednesday, July 17th. And I have Jay Pegluka behind the board. So thank you again, Jay, and good morning to you.
Good morning. Just remember, it's me behind the board.
It's you behind the board,
yeah.
yep.
It's not as automatic as the other guy.
Exactly. In the old days, I didn't really even realize what Pete was doing back there, so I didn't know which buttons were doing what. But now I know. If those lights are not yellow, I'm not on the microphone. So anyway, my guest this morning is the former owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Berry.
Good morning,
So
everyone.
good morning, Patrick. So anything new going on in your life that you want to talk about today?
No, working on my tan.
Yeah, there you go.
Get the lawn cut.
Yeah, Patrick is
hedges
sort of
trimmed.
semi-retired at this point. So a lot has happened.
A lot has happened.
A lot has
in the
happened,
last
and I will
couple
and
weeks,
I will
months.
divulge that we are taping this show, so it's actually not really Wednesday, July 17th, but it will air on Wednesday, July 17th. So, so we're pretending that it is, but a lot has happened. So, before we kind of talk about what's going on today, let's talk about your history with the Westfield News. When did you take over the Westfield News? And why don't we start with that process?
So I took over. My first official day was June 25th, 2011. So it was 8 years and 3 weeks, almost to the day, when the ownership change took place again. So, and it was 8 years of absolute fun. I mean,
so let's talk about why did you take over the paper, and sort of what was the impetus for that?
Going back in time, so I first started investigating purchasing the Westfield News in the summer of 2009. So 10 years ago, I first started looking at it. The fall prior to that, October of 2008, the former publisher Carol Mazza had passed away. So a lot of people may remember Carol.
Yep.
And I think her husband's name was Joe. He had passed away several years earlier. But what a lot of people thought was Carol owned the paper. She was just the hired publisher by a company called Albritton out of Virginia. And so in October 2008, Carol passed away. And in 2009, I just happened to be out golfing with my brother, and there was something going on in town. And to this day, neither my brother or I could remember what that one thing that triggered the conversation. But we were sort of shocked that the Westfield News wasn't covering it as much as we thought they should.
Oh, gotcha. So there was an event, and you kind of felt like, okay, where's the paper? Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So and then I had been in the media business for, God, I'm trying do my math in my head at this hour of the day. But anyway, for many years before
long
that,
time, yeah.
and I sit back and I look at the newspaper in 2009, and it was what we all remembered newspapers to be. You had your local section, your national section, your regional section, your international section. It was like all things
your
to all
sports section,
people.
your
Right.
obituaries.
And in 2009, the world was different.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause the paper hadn't changed in literally decades. You know,
Yep.
it hadn't really kept up with the times. And really, quite frankly, the trigger was September 11th, 2001,
Okay.
when a lot of people really started to focus on communities.
Okay.
You know, that kind of brought everybody back to community. And I saw that in the television world, in the radio world. So then in 2009, when I'm looking at this paper, there's nothing really of substance covering Westfield.
Okay.
It's be all things to all people, which
Yeah.
was nice, but it wasn't the way of the world anymore with community media. So I started investigating buying it, and it took 2 years.
Okay.
I finally bought it, signed my life away in 2011, summer of 2011.
Okay.
But there was a lot of work involved leading up to that. In day one, I changed it. It was all about local. Westfield, Southwick, and the hill towns that we covered.
Okay.
The two other news publications, the Longmeadow News and the Enfield Press, were already like that. So there was really no change because there were weekly papers. And the Penny Saver didn't really need to change at all because it's kind of consistent. But I wanted to focus the news content on truly what was happening in our communities. I wanted much greater coverage of Southwick Town Hall, Westfield City Hall, all the various committee and government meetings,
Right.
and in the hill towns. I want, so that was my focus, and I think we did it very well.
Yes.
There was a lot of people complained early on that, well, how do I know what's going on in Boston? I said, pick up the other big paper in town.
Right.
Support media.
Right.
Unfortunately, these devices, and I'm holding my cell phone.
Yeah.
You can get anything about anywhere at any time. So if I want to know what the political situation right now is in Lyon, France, I can find it on my phone.
Right.
But if you want to know what's going on in City Hall and here in Westfield, you can now find it on your phone, but you really have to, focus on local news. So that was the impetus of why I did what I did.
Okay.
Well, I made two judgment mistakes. One was that I thought Westfield was really desperate for more local news. Because if you take a step back and if you look at Westfield and you say, and you look at it and you say, wow, people in Westfield are really involved. They really want to know what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
So the focus of the paper shifted to be a more local thing. And that's true to a certain extent. But then the other thing is, I found out people weren't that supportive of it.
Okay.
So,
there's one thing to be interested and there's another thing to be supportive.
Exactly. And a lot of businesses in town,
Yeah.
we see that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So the initial shock of the change, people got over it. I had my core customers who love it, got new subscribers who wanted more local stuff, more. And it wasn't just local news, too. It was what's going on in the schools, the bands, the drama shows. I beefed up our sports coverage because, every kid and parent, aunt and uncle, grandma and grandpa want to see their family
absolutely.
in the paper. So we beefed all that up, and we had I had a wonderful run for, like I said, 8 years and just about 3
And
weeks.
you did some other changes too, which I don't want to get swept under the carpet. But first of all, you changed the size of the paper because remember it was the big.
It was, but that wasn't me. That was
big.
just the nature of the industry.
Yeah, I thought it was a great change. I always felt like it was this oddball.
Right, you're like reading a tablecloth.
Yeah.
But again, again, the change in the industry, and that was not me. That was. Well, it was to a certain extent. When we printed in the building on School Street,
that was my next thing.
We could only do black and white. We could do a little bit of spot color, but it was primarily a black and white newspaper, and it was the big broadsheet.
Yeah.
Which, just think about the square footage of a big broadsheet.
Oh my God.
It just costs more money for paper, right? And then what do you put on that broadsheet? More ink.
Right.
So it cost more to produce it, and we were one of the last ones to be producing a paper of that size.
Well, the interesting thing was I can remember, Patrick, in the old days when we were at the senior center, you literally, people literally had to spread it out you had to sit at a table.
By yourself to read it.
So in addition to the cost of the paper, everybody had to have a table in their house big enough to put this paper on because you couldn't.
Don't sit there. I'm trying to read the paper.
You couldn't sit and hold it up. Yeah. You could do that on the front page and the back page, but as soon as you had to open it up, it's like, I need the table. I have to spread out here.
Exactly. So that was an industry-wide trend. And what's just a quick side note,
that's
I
fine.
think it's the Hartford Courant and the Wall Street Journal are even smaller to this day.
Yes.
They're smaller
Yes.
products, you know.
Yes.
So we modified the paper, and one of the funny things was when we made the change, a longtime friend, you know, I'd call him my second father. He lived across the street. Patrick, Jack Griffin, why is the print so small? Like, Jack, the print isn't small. It's just a smaller page. It's an optical illusion, right?
Exactly.
I'm telling you, it's smaller. You know, so I got that a lot, right? And but it was, you know, it was a change, that, and people don't
Welcome
like
back to
change.
Westfield.
Right, and people don't necessarily like change. But it was a good change. So, and day one, I hired the Republican in Springfield to print us. Because
Right, I was going to say, so that was huge because you had the printing presses
All in
there
the
on
building.
School Street.
Yeah,
but that was a huge first change.
Right, and again, you think about it. You know, again, during my acquisition of the paper in 2010 and 11, looking at costs. Okay,
Yeah,
what does it cost
absolutely.
to print the paper in the building? Well, not only do you have the paper and the ink, but then there's, God, you're going back in time, the film to develop the photos, the
Wow.
plates to make the paper, you know, and all the
Yeah.
ancillary items. So they had a good chunk of the building was a warehouse of
Yeah.
stuff to
Printing
create a
stuff.
paper. Right?
Yes.
And you look at what that cost was. The person cost,
Yeah, I was
the
going to say
human cost.
somebody to do it, right?
Yeah.
Or-
So there were
I don't know how you
three
do
printing staff members.
Okay.
And then all the
and all the stuff that went
equipment
with it.
and right.
Yeah.
So I contacted 3 different places: the Wall Street Journal print facility in Chicopee, the Republican, and the Daily Hampshire Gazette. Get quotes. Who can print me at what cost? And the Republican was, I mean, not only were they the best process, they the best looking, best price, but they're also the closest.
Yeah,
You know, so
perfect.
check, done.
Yep, hired.
And so day one, I started printing over there, and it was cheaper. I mean,
Yes.
obviously that was the big
Sure.
big issue.
Of course.
Full color, every page, every ad, every photo. And I will never forget this woman. I don't remember her name, but the
Yeah.
conversation I had with her probably within a month after I took over the paper. Patrick, I don't like the color photos. Go back to the black and white. I go, you know, you didn't even know Governor Patrick was black until we started printing in color. And I was very friendly, you know, and she's like, good point. You know?
That is classic.
So, but it's, you know, come on,
That
it's
is
2011. We
classic.
need color photos.
Yeah.
Again, go back to the picture of the drama club at South Middle School then. You know,
Yes.
you want to see Peter Pan dressed in green.
Yeah,
You don't want to see a shade
absolutely.
of gray.
Yes.
You know, you want to see Dorothy's red heels at North Middle. You don't want to see,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
So, and the colors, you know, the Southwick High School green jerseys and the sports page.
Well,
so it's so
as
crucial.
being the mom of someone who played sports and
Right.
Grace was over at St. Mary's for a few years. I mean, that was really helpful because I would see as soon as you saw the colors,
You knew what team.
you'd know what team it was.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, back in the old days, it's like, wait, who's
All right.
playing who?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
so we made some big changes.
Yeah.
And you know, we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back after break. But it's going to be I got lots to talk about, Tina.
Okay, so this song is for Patrick. This is Secondhand News by Fleetwood Mac, since we're kind of talking about the newsy stuff.
I'm nothing to say. Someone has taken my place. When times go bad, when times go rough, won't you lay me down in the tall grass and let me do my stuff? I know got nothing on you. I know there's nothing to do. When times go bad, you can't get enough. Won't you lay me down in the tall grass and let me do my stuff? Bow, 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 bow.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
It's Tuesday morning from 6 till 8. Wow, it's Tuesday with Bob Plass.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is Wednesday, July 17th. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and we are broadcasting this morning from the campus of Westfield State University. Behind the boards is Jay Pagluca. So, Jay, thank you so much again for filling in for Pete Coles. I appreciate that.
Never a worry.
And my guest this morning is the former owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Berry. For those of you who, as my brother would say, live in a cave and haven't heard the latest news, the Westfield News recently was sold. And so Patrick is here to kind of tell us about that and tell us about the history of his ownership and what led to the sale of the paper and sort of what we can expect.
And to be back on the radio. It's
been
months.
Exactly.
Since I've been
And
on
he
the
just
radio.
really wanted to be a guest, and he kind of
Does that
figured.
mean you're going to have your news show again?
Well, it's funny. So my family
we pick on
and my
you a
family
lot,
and I are talking about it, and my daughter Courtney, she goes, "Well, now you can go back and do a radio show."
There you go.
And I said, "Who's going to listen to me? I've got no connection to anything. I'm not the news. I'm just like, hey, cool. Patrick Berry's got a radio show.
Well, I never knows because
know?
we don't know what you're going to end up doing
I
next.
know.
So we'll see about
So,
all of that. Okay, where would you like to pick this
Mayor
up?
Patrick Berry? No.
Oh,
Good God, no, and
well,
no.
let's get that rumor started.
No. Joe,
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to hit the button and I'm missing
Jay
it.
can't get the button fast enough
I
to.
love that idea.
No,
There you go.
I do
To
not. My
get
wife
on
does
air.
not.
You,
No.
You've seen way too much of what goes on behind the
Exactly.
curtain.
There you go.
No, the
Very
candidates
good.
that are out there are good.
Yep.
And I.
Yes, we've always.
Please make sure you vote.
We've
Just go
always
vote.
applauded that. Yeah, we'll continue to harp on
Yeah.
that.
So anyway,
Okay.
So we were
So
just
paper.
before the break. We were talking
Yes.
about when I took over and the changes I implemented. So if you fast forward 8 years or so, the community news business is hard. It is
Yes,
a very
challenging,
hard business, especially if you're a sole independent owner publisher like I was. You just don't have the resources for things. So when I first started the conversation with the folks at the Reminder and the Republican, just last November, really,
Yep.
November 2018, it was more of just a casual, it was sort of a joke mostly. I said, hey, you guys bought the Reminder, why don't you guys buy me? And that just sort of evolved into a real substantive conversation. And, and I wasn't in the market to sell it.
right? You weren't looking to do
But
that.
as I jokingly said that, and and after I thought about it for days and weeks, I go, it really does make sense because they have the resources and the ability to do things I could just dream of. There's no way I could do anything close to what they're doing on a daily basis, just because we're a small community newspaper.
Yep.
And so I made the decision in my head, really probably Christmas time, 2018, January 1st, 2018.
It's about 6 months ago.
Yeah,
something
this
like
is
that.
this is a good decision.
Yeah.
It's a good decision for the news of Westfield, Southwick, and the Hill Towns. That's what it came down to. So, and then as we go through the negotiations of them acquiring me, acquiring the business, my fear was the employees. Mm-hmm. Because I look at it, they've got graphics department, they've got production, they've got all these people, and I've got a building of 40 employees, 39 employees, and I go, I don't want everybody to lose their job. That wasn't the intent.
Yes.
So as we got through the negotiations, their intent and still is keeping everyone, not changing anything immediately.
Yep.
So there's going to, there will be some changes.
Of course.
I know a couple of them I can't talk about just yet.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
that's up to them. But there will be some changes definitely for the better.
Yep.
But the vast majority of the people will still remain. I could never offer health benefits. Day one, they got health benefits, 401k.
Yeah.
So my mind was at ease over the last couple of months since April to recently, just that the employees were going to be taken care of. That was really crucial to me.
Yep.
That the paper continues covering these communities and that the employees still had jobs.
Yep.
That, I didn't want to be the guy who, Patrick sold the paper and eliminated 35 jobs.
And everybody lost their job.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I was really happy in my conversations with the folks at the Reminder and the Republican that they pretty much keeping everybody.
I think you brought up the issue, Patrick, of things that you can only dream of in terms of being the sole proprietor, and I think that is the world that we live in today. I mean, there are very few private family doctor practices for the same reason, because if you want to keep up with technology, whether it's in the medical field or the nursing home industry, I've seen it happen with that over the last 40 years since I've been in the field. It's really difficult. It's almost impossible for a single person to, purchase the X-ray equipment and the ultrasound equipment and all of this stuff that you need to keep up with and to kind of, I don't want to say be competitive, but at least be, level out the playing field.
But even my auto mechanic, he tells me, he goes, the technology we need now to fix a car costs so much. Computer systems.
Yes.
He goes, so if you notice, a lot of your little local mechanics aren't there anymore.
Right.
The older guys have retired and there's no, there's still some out there, don't get me wrong, and they do great work, but it's hard, for those guys it's harder
really
and harder.
hard. It gets harder and harder.
The other key thing, aside from all that, is the responsibilities and the financial responsibilities placed on small business owners in Massachusetts is brutal.
Yeah.
FMLA. I mean, you've got minimum wage. I said before all of this ever happened with the Republican and the Reminder, when Massachusetts announced that minimum wage was going to $15 an hour by 2022,
yep.
I sat my staff down and I said, we will be closed by then.
Yes. You have to be, yeah.
We will be closed because we could not afford that.
Right, and I think what people don't think about, although I'm starting to hear a little bit more even in mainstream media about the ramifications of that.
Oh my God.
But what you have to look at is if minimum wage is 15, then everybody else who's making more than that, is going to have to make more than that still. So in other words, if you have somebody who's making $17 an hour right now, somebody else is making, $11 an hour. Well, when that $11 person goes up to 15, you got to do
with the 17.
What do you do with the 17?
Right.
Well, that person's got to go up, because otherwise, why would they stay?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I mean, so there's this snowball effect, and now they are talking about the fact that if and when, well, in Massachusetts, it's when that goes into effect, there are certainly people that are going to lose their jobs.
And then you think about it, as you enter the summer, back the end of May, beginning of June, latter part of June, you hear these parents, oh, I've got a 16-year-old who's looking for a job. Well, I hate to tell you, they're not getting one because there's a 35-year-old who's looking for a job I'm going to pay a 35-year-old $12 an hour before I pay a 16-year-old, who's just going to leave me in September
at the end of the summer
so you have that snowball, that issue too, that the teenagers, I remember when I was a teenager, jobs were plenty. You could do whatever you wanted. Now, not so much. So so doing business in Massachusetts as a small proprietor is very, very difficult with the regulations that they put on. So you add that in combination with the newspaper business, the struggling, and even still, they call it the newspaper business, but we've got websites, we've got Facebook pages. You can get our news from anywhere. But the key issue has always been, in a small community paper, you need subscribers to keep going.
Absolutely.
Because, you go back 30 years ago, you had, for an advertiser's perspective, you had print, radio, TV, billboard. Those were your options, right?
Yep.
So then social media comes along, and for the most part, you can advertise on social media for free. Mm-hmm. But it's like shouting into a cave.
Yes.
So you still have to target. But we lost a lot of advertising to that. So when you look at the benefit of the Republican Reminder taking over the Westfield News, they've got the that's a word I'm looking for, the cachet. They've got the connections with bigger advertisers.
Absolutely.
Here's a perfect example, and I've talked about this since day one. The Big Y and Stop and Shop inserts in the Westfield News.
Okay.
We're too small for them.
Yes.
Even though we've got three Big Ys in our market, 2 in Westfield, 1 in Southwick, and a Stop and Shop. that you're not gonna drive to West Springfield to go grocery shopping.
Right.
You're gonna go right here.
Right. Of course.
So we were too small for them to advertise. Now
with the Republican.
it's going to be like automatic.
There you go. Of
So
course.
that
Yes.
benefits the readers.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
there are things like that will help benefit the newspaper financially. So they'll be able to grow the revenue in ways that I always tried, but could never. And then you think of some of the larger advertisers, like maybe a Bay State Health Systems.
Sure.
Who even though we have Noble Hospital here, they look at
that's one little piece of the pie.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so,
we got the mothership over in Springfield.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, their sales, and I'm making this up, their sales staff can come in and say, well, give us $10 extra a week for Bay State Noble.
Yeah.
Well, you add that up across 52 weeks, it adds revenue to the
snowballs.
pool. So they just have the resources and the abilities to do things that I couldn't as an independent owner of a small community paper. So, and I applaud the Republican because their business model has changed in the last couple of years, too. So they bought the Reminder out of East Long Meadow, which is all local little community newspapers around Springfield, sort of the east and southeast side of Springfield.
Right.
Hamden, Wilbraham, East Long Meadow, over there.
Yep.
They restarted the Chicopee Herald. So the Republican is getting back into the truly local news market, which is so important.
Yep.
What's on the west? What's west of the river?
Yeah.
You got the West Springfield Record, which you get at your house.
Weekly. That's a weekly.
And then the Westfield News.
Yep.
So it was really sort of a smart move on their part.
Yes, it made sense on their part.
To sort of capitalize on all of the local media surrounding the big city of Springfield. So it will be a very good thing for Westfield, Southwick, and the Hilltowns, Longmeadow, Enfield. Even though Enfield's Connecticut, it's right over the border. I mean, it's like Westfield and Southwick. People go back and forth. But there's still lots more to talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. So speaking of all these advertisings and all that, so this song is also for you, Patrick. So this is One Ad by the Honeycombs.
Patrick, this is your life.
This is your song. Here we go.
Wanted, young man, single and free. Experience in love preferred, but will accept the young trainee. Oh, I'm gonna put it in the wanted. I need a love that's true. Gonna put it in the wanted. My man and I are through. At home I find myself lost and all alone.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is Wednesday, July 17th. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and we are on the campus of Westfield State University. In the studio here this morning, behind the boards is Jay Pagluca. So, Jay, welcome, and thank you for taking over behind the board.
Well, far from taking over, I'm just,
He's got that deer in headlights look.
You're
over
doing
there.
it. You're doing fine. So, Jay, before we get back to, I'm going to give Patrick a little bit of a break here. So before we get back to that, I know this coming Saturday, July 20th, are the Glasgow games. Is that correct?
A week from Saturday.
Well,
So-
yes, but we are July 17th.
Sorry.
Remember?
So July 7th,
Yeah,
July
so this
20th.
coming
Yeah,
Saturday.
it's the third Thursday of
Third Saturday.
Third
did I-
Saturday of the month. Yeah. Third
And actually-
Saturday of July.
Yeah,
Is
the
that right?
morning's been
And
like
actually,
that.
tomorrow night is the concert on the green.
It is, and we're getting to that. I've got that one too. I've got all my musical
You're not
announcements
going in
here.
chronological order, Tina. You're messing with me.
No, well, but I wanted to bring Jay in because he's so involved in this up in Northampton, and just did a show recently.
We take
so.
over Look Park
Yeah.
for a day. The third
Saturday.
There's some Saturday in
The
July.
third Saturday in July annually,
this year
right?
It is July 20th.
Jay, how long have they been doing this? How many years?
26 years.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
And how long have you been involved with it?
I think 5 or 6 years. You know,
Okay.
I helped out before that, but I
Okay.
really jumped in with both feet about 5 or 6 years ago.
And what is your role with
And
everything up there?
mostly
What do you
PA
do?
around the peripheral, all the different venues within there,
Okay.
and the lighting on the main stage.
Okay.
So basically, all my toys are at the park.
Yeah.
And it's just a ball. It's one of the most exhausting and satisfying thing that we do. It benefits the Forum House.
Yes.
And
River Counseling, is it the yes?
In Holyoke.
Yes.
And the most satisfying thing that we did is last year was one of our biggest and most successful festivals. We gave each of those organizations checks for $15,000.
Wow.
I know.
That's fantastic.
I have to tell you that I heard that on air when you were doing the show, and that blew me out of the water because when you were kind of talking and said, well, let's see, how much did we give last year? So I'm thinking to myself, wow, I would be really impressed if each thing got like 5 or 10,000, and when you came out with 15 for each of those organizations, I mean that was raising $30,000. That was amazing.
And it's one of those things. Weather plays a big part,
Of course.
And the day was beautiful. It was a perfect bluebird day last year.
Yep.
And when that works, it all comes together.
Yep.
There's been years when it's rained or it looked like dangerous thunderstorms.
Yes. Yes.
I hate the weather guys when they say that.
Yeah.
Don't go outside.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's the same thing in the wintertime.
Right.
Oh, it's snowing. Don't go out. Oh, heck, it's snowing. Go skiing.
Right,
But,
exactly. You live in New England. What do you want?
But
Yeah.
we've had years when it's only been a couple of $1,000s.
Yes.
When we barely
Yes.
were able to do that.
Yes.
And make sure we had enough to keep going for the next year.
Yeah.
So we're grateful to weather. We're grateful to volunteers.
Sure.
And of course, both of those organizations provide a whole bunch of volunteers.
Yes, yes.
And again, it's one of the reasons this works.
Yes, absolutely.
So come on out, have
Fun
a great
times.
time. Saturday starts from 9 until
Yeah, what's so-
What happens
10:30.
at Scottish Fest?
9:30s.
Here we
What
go.
happens at Scottish Fest stays
Stays
at
at Scottish Fest?
No, what
we can't talk about that on the air.
We'll-
No,
we'll
I'm
stay
kidding.
there, yeah.
What happened? Men in kilts?
Well, since you don't have anything to do, Patrick,
Yes. He could even volunteer, Jay. What the heck?
seriously, come up and
Yeah.
find out a little bit about it. But the very short version is we have Scottish games, and these are games of skill and strength. And
Now, those are with people that are that are they already kind of signed up for that, or
Yes,
they
they
okay?
are.
So that's
So-
like in a
so
performance.
Tina and I
type
can't
thing.
just show
yeah,
up and pull
exactly. It's like,
along.
hey, Patrick, you want to like jump into this one?
Yeah,
Put on a
Carve a
kilt.
canoe.
here's a small telephone
on a
pole.
kilt, let's
Toss
go.
it. Yeah, tossing the caber.
Yeah, there you go.
Tossing the
But
caber.
that's fun because you really get to see some, and you're right. Everyone
Yeah.
wears kilts, men and women, and or women and men, but bagpipes. We have more bagpipe bands this year than we have ever had. The first year, 26 years ago, there were 3 bagpipe bands.
Okay.
A bagpipe band is, you see them in a parade. There might be
Yeah.
15, 25 people. This year, we have 31.
Different bands?
Different bands. They all compete and they all get prizes. They're graded, and that's beyond what I understand. But we'll have, at opening and closing ceremonies, over 500 bagpipes on one time playing the same song on the parade grounds.
Wow.
And it's one of those things, and maybe it's my Scottish heritage, but the shiver goes up my spine.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well,
holy
bagpipes
cow.
will do that to you. And bagpipes, by the way, are very, very difficult to play.
Yeah,
I had
no doubt.
my brother-in-law wanted to kind of try it, and he had, and you don't just dive into playing bagpipes. There's all this other preliminary, sort of simpler, because it
For
has
those
to do
of us
with
who
the
aren't musically
breathing
inclined,
and stuff.
the tambourine is hard to play.
Yeah, no, right, or the triangle,
Yeah.
right? I know,
Oh,
I
can't.
know.
I was
Yeah.
so
I know. I'm
in awe of
impressed
any
with. I know.
musician.
I'm right there with
Yeah.
you, and I hope that someday, if I die, I want to come back and be able to play something.
Just
I don't care
something.
anything, guitar,
Yeah.
piano, something. I think that would be such
No,
a
my mom
wonderful
was a
talent.
concert pianist. My dad was a football player in college, and it seemed to have skipped a generation.
Yeah,
I
There you
couldn't-
go.
yeah,
There
I
you
got
go.
none. Got
Well,
none.
anyway, they sound like this. The Scottish games just sound like a great time. But and then this was the other thing, and you did talk about this. I heard you talk about this on air. So, the games and so forth go from 9 until 5.
Correct.
But then there's something else that I have, some flyer that I have up at the senior center that says, but the music will go until 9:30. So
That's
is that
correct.
one sort of the
That's when the party starts.
That's when it's what happens, and
Those
and
are
Look
the-
Park stays in
on
Look
the
Park.
other hand, the
Yeah.
music really starts, in the early afternoon
Yeah.
on the main stage.
Yeah.
And we have the Tartan Terrors, who are a wonderful Celtic group, and they are hilarious. The Screaming Orphans, which is 4 sisters out of Donegal, Scotland. We have Albanac, which is percussion, bagpipes, and a didgeridoo.
Okay, there you go.
That's extremely cool. It's the most high energy band I have ever seen, hands down, anywhere.
the hell's a didgeridoo?
And when he's done with that, he's going to tell us what a haggis is, because Enter the Haggis is the other.
Well,
what
haggis
is that?
is a meal, right?
That's what I was going to say. Does it have something to do with food?
Isn't it like cow stomach?
It's what's left over after you've eaten everything else out of the sheep.
Okay, then.
Now, some
So that means
some
it's not
would
an
say-
attractive
But
looking
the
band.
music was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he was playing. I mean, the
Oh,
music
Enter
is
the Haggis is
so
very good, yeah.
fun.
And haggis plays around here. They're well known around here,
Okay.
and they will close the show. They'll be the and if we don't take them off the stage, they'll play through.
Oh,
the
good.
night.
Oh, they'll play through the
Wait
night.
till Tuesday.
Okay. So all of this is at Look Park. Now, my question is, when you drive to Look Park, are there people giving you directions on where to?
There's-
Because Look Park is pretty big.
Well, no, we take over the park.
Okay.
We
So,
are
but I
the
mean,
park
people
for
will
the day.
direct us
Yeah,
to
there's
where
signs
to.
to get you,
Okay.
and there's parking, plenty of parking
Okay.
within the park. You can park on the peripherals if you
Okay.
find elsewhere, but
Okay.
get there early. We recommend
Okay.
strongly you get
Like
there
define
before
early.
9.
Before 9?
Before 9 in the morning.
Oh, wow, okay.
But if you plan on getting there, and if your goal is to just be there for the entertainment, show up in the middle of the afternoon. You're
Okay.
good.
Okay.
But tickets are on sale.
Yeah.
That you can get them online. Print
Yep.
them online. That's the easiest way. We appreciate it because it helps the line go faster coming
Yes,
in.
yes.
So glasgowlands.org.
Okay. Perfect. And you know what? While we're doing,
Thanks for asking, by the way.
while we're doing announcements, I'm going to do some of the musical stuff, because Patrick brought up the Music Fest. But you're right, Patrick. Normally, I do my announcements in chronological order. So, other than the Glasgow games, because I wanted Jay to be able to talk about that. But we are doing the open air mics out on the green on Wednesday evenings. So sign up start at 6 p.m. Performances beginning at 6:30. Microphones, acoustic guitar plugins, and a sound system are provided. And just remember that performances must include an instrument. So it's not just somebody who sings and uses, sort of technology music, right?
No karaoke.
Yeah, no karaoke.
I'm out.
But performers of all ages are welcome. You can bring a lawn chair, you can bring a blanket, you can bring beverages and snacks, but no alcohol on the green. Okay, so that's every Wednesday. As Patrick mentioned, tomorrow, which will be
Wednesday the 18th.
Thursday,
the 18th, excuse me.
July 18th, at Park Square Green, we have King Country and Ray. I can never get this name right.
Ray Gilmet.
Gilmet. I can never pronounce it right. It doesn't look the way.
Well,
it
that's
sounds.
the Americanized. It's
I
like
know.
Gilmet
It's
or
right. That's
whatever,
what I was going to
French,
say. Isn't
yeah.
it like really Gilmet?
Gilmet. Like Roger Goulet?
Because I was just up in Quebec City, so
Right.
everyone was
Right,
doing
yeah.
the French thing. But anyway, so King Country with Ray Gilmet. The concert started at 6:30. We unfortunately the June one had to be postponed because of, we thought,
They are
thunderstorms.
rescheduling out into September.
Yes, for September.
so we'll
I
still
saw
get it to
that.
go, yeah.
So that's kind of cool because by September
The students will be back from here at Westfield State, which hopefully they'll come check it out.
So that's kind of fun. But anyway, so July 18th, Park Square Green, 6:30, King Country, lots of fun.
Is
it's
it
a
only
free
King
event.
Country tomorrow night?
I believe so. Yes, Jay, do you know
I
that?
believe they may have a local opener.
Opener?
Okay.
Just for you to come on for a little while.
Yep.
That's
that
okay.
would be cool
Good.
if they can do
Showcase another band.
Yep,
Absolutely.
exactly. So just remember, when you attend those concerts on the green, there are a few rules. There are no bikes and no skateboarding because we have a lot of pedestrians and we have people of all ages.
And as a attendee to these shows,
Yes.
leave your dog at home.
Thank you.
Leave your dog at home.
Gary,
This really
thanks
isn't
you.
a place for
Yeah,
dogs.
yeah,
Unless
it's really
it's a
not.
service animal. That's completely
Yes,
different.
yes,
but
yes.
I've seen too many instances where dogs growl at people. They're just
Yeah.
You
And
may
we
think
have a
your dog is
Cute.
people friendly
Yeah.
and cute, but leave it at home.
Well, and also, and it may be, but it may scare the bejeebies out of, the
Absolutely.
toddlers that we have dancing
Right.
to the music. Because we have it's a family-oriented event. Yes. All right. So, good grief. Got to do a
Settle
break.
down, Charlie
I
Brown.
know. Got to do a break. Okay, so we'll do
It's
a break
my
and then.
fault. I was
no.
talking
That's
too
okay. Well, that's okay because we got into the Glasgow games. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to do the rest of the musical stuff that's going on, and then we're going to get back with our guest Patrick Berry, former owner of the Westfield News Group.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at betsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is Wednesday, July 17th. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. I'm in studio this morning with the man behind the boards, Jay Pagluca, with a lot of puzzled looks on his face this morning. Everything okay back there, Jay?
No.
What's that smoke?
Without getting into too much detail, I'm doing I got 4 irons in the fire.
Yeah, he's multitasking.
We're recording one, making sure what's out on going
Yeah,
out live,
is-
and then
is
I've still got my
playing.
real job that I'm doing, and then queuing up your next song.
Oh, and there it is. We all have real. Well, some
Not
of us.
all of us.
Some of us have real jobs. I was just as soon as I said it, I looked over and I went, "Well, my guest this morning is the former owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Berry, who is pleasantly retired, temporarily retired. How's
Do
that?
not
Yes.
say retired in front of my wife. She'll kill you.
No, it's just that's why I said
It's
temporarily.
every morning.
It's temporarily. Patrick,
found a job yet?
Wait, what are you
Have you
doing?
found a job yet?
All right. So before we get back to Patrick, and we are going to do that in just about 2 minutes, but I do want to announce a couple of other musical events going on this week in Westfield. So Friday mornings for children at Stanley Park. The performances are held in the Beverage Pavilion Annex on Friday mornings at 10 a.m., weather permitting, free of charge. Chairs are provided. This is just a great service, and a huge shout out to Bob McKeon and the folks over at Stanley Park, Hillary McEwen, for all of the planning on these programs. And for those of you who have children who, we're 2 weeks into summer vacation and they're already bored.
Okay.
So this is what you do. This is great for grandparents, for parents, for babysitters, for nannies. Take your kids here. So July 19th.
But it's not a drop and go.
No, it's not a drop and go. You have to stay, but it will it'll keep them entertained.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So July 19th, this Friday, the program is Kindness with Carrie A. LeBerry and friends. Given our stressful world, we'd like to suggest just a little extra kindness can go a long way to getting along with each other. We feel that even if it's just for an hour, it's great to let kids just be kids. Terry A. LeBerry and friends will provide an hour of interactive, positive messages for children and their families through song and dance. And all of these programs are really appropriate for, the whole family. They're just great. So thank you to Stanley Park. That's this Friday at 10 a.m. And then Sunday at Stanley Park, they will continue with the Westfield Bank Sunday Night Concert Series. The concerts begin at 6 p.m. in the Beverage Pavilion, weather permitting, and are free to the public. There is food service available there. The chairs are there for you. And this coming Sunday, I got to flip my cheat sheet over here. This coming Sunday, July 21st, it's the Eddie Foreman Orchestra. Pete Coles tells me that this is, just a huge winner. The Eddie Foreman Orchestra, also known as EFO, is a Western Massachusetts polka band that has been performing since 1968. Yeah, Jay's over here doing the polka.
I was one.
That wasn't
you
a
were
polka.
one back
I was
then.
one.
He was one back in 1968. The band's enthusiasm and love for the music they perform, their versatility and ability to embrace a wide range of styles, and their dedication to strong, lively performances make the Eddie Foreman Orchestra an enduring success. People of all ages are invited to join them and enjoy a fun-filled evening of good music. I remember the first year I was doing the radio show, and they were at Stanley. They were going to be performing at Stanley Park, and I said something to Pete about, really, like a polka band? Who's going to come? He goes, "Are you kidding me, Tina? The
standing room
lawn
only.
will be
still
right?
huge here
Will be packed.
in this area.
Well, we
yeah.
have a large Polish contingency
Yes,
here
we
at
do.
Well,
Westfield.
I don't mean to sound ignorant. Do we still do polka Saturday mornings here at
Saturday
SKB?
mornings is still a polka show, yeah.
Yeah, they are doing that here.
Oddly, a friend of mine has a station not far off of here that on Sunday mornings is all polka.
Yeah, there is a following. And then Tuesday evenings, we have at Amelia's Garden, we have the free concerts there. Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. So July 23rd, which will be next Tuesday, 6 days from now. Old Country Road Band, and they'll be doing vintage classic and country bluegrass. So bring your lawn chairs, enjoy the beautiful flowers and the sunset. In the event of inclement weather, those concerts are held inside at the ice arena. So make sure that you bring a sweater or a lightweight jacket just in case you have to go inside. For those of you who don't know where that's located, that's at 21 South Broad Street, right near the Amelia Park Children's Museum and the ice arena and the Boys and Girls Club. So just go past the big Y, turn right, and you'll hear the music. And then finally, we have this other, and this isn't even all of it. I know Jay's got a whole list of other stuff going on, but I know over by Mina's Wine and Spirits, they're doing the block party. Well, they're not the Friday nights, but they're also doing the block party series.
Oh,
so the
Lion.
next in the block party series is July 25th. So that's coming up with the Buddy McKern's band playing blues and rockabilly tunes. So the bands are scheduled to perform from 7 to 9. Yes, and you're right. It's White Lion Brewing. Patrick,
Yep.
you're right about that.
It's Thursday the 25th,
is bringing
I
the beer garden. I don't know
You
what.
gotta look it up.
I'm not
White
sure. You'll look
Lions,
that up.
I believe they're working right now on getting White Lion to also help out with the Friday shows. So
Oh, okay.
if you'd like to come over and have a beverage.
Right, and
downtown.
they do that just in the parking lot right next to Mina's Wine and Spirits. There's
That's
like a
exactly
really
right.
nice big area over
Yeah,
there where they
is,
can
yeah.
do that. So, and then North Elm Butcher Block, it will have his grills fired up, and they'll be doing barbecued pulled pork, beef brisket, barbecued ribs, pulled chicken,
no.
smoked chicken
and if
legs.
you've never had
and
DJ
Turkey
Pooza's
Johnson's.
barbecue,
Is it amazing?
You're missing. Oh my God.
So this drives me crazy when anybody says there's, which I
There's
had
nothing to do.
Yeah, there's nothing to do in
don't-
Westfield.
don't get me
don't
going.
even. Pete and I are the same way because I had.
Because you don't look.
I had somebody who
what's
said
your brother's
that to me.
phrase?
Yeah, what are you living in a cave?
Yeah.
That's it.
And if you're a car enthusiast, one thing
Oh my
that
God. Every Tuesday night.
every Tuesday night up at Hampton Ponds is
Right.
wonderful vehicles, and this is where I love coming out to those kind of things because I'm like, I had no idea there were so many cool cars around.
Oh,
you know?
I
absolutely.
forgot about that one.
I
Oh my
know.
God.
And you know what? I'm so glad they're bringing, I'm glad you mentioned that because they're bringing the car show back to the Food Fest this year, the Rotary Club Food Fest in August.
Excellent. Yeah.
And I think they had it 2 years ago, and they didn't do the car show last year. My seniors were really disappointed. They loved it. They don't have a lot, but they've just, they loved it. And the owners are there, and people can go and talk to them and ask them questions and talk about, I had a car like that, for my first date, and
Owners
kinds
love
of real.
to talk.
Oh, they do.
Oh,
well, I
just-
don't blame them. They spend so much time, spit polishing it.
And I will
you know.
say, for our generation, if you've got a parent still around who
Yes.
loves old cars,
Yes. Bring
please
them.
take them because at some point, parent's not going to be around, and you're going to go, I should have.
Oh, my mom would have loved that, or my dad would have
Exactly.
loved
And I'm
that.
kicking myself now for not doing more of that with my dad.
With your dad, yeah.
Gary Francis is one of the guys that really helps a lot with the car
With the
shows
car
around
stuff.
here. Bruce Marshall is another one.
Yep.
Bruce Marshall is the Valley's car king,
Yeah.
the car show king. Because if there is a show here or a car run or a rod run or whatever in the valley, he's
behind it,
probably behind it somewhere.
Right, and the ones that they're at the Hampton Ponds Plaza.
Yep.
And every Tuesday?
Right.
What about what time, Jay? Like
Starts at
6
5.
or
Yeah,
something?
they start
5
going in.
o'clock.
to sunset.
Something like that, yeah. Till sunset.
They'll
yeah.
start going in. All right.
But what's the, forget it. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say. So there are just a few of the musical and car things to do in Westfield. I'm all messed up with my time again. Are we okay? Should we take a little break before we go? Keep going. Okay. So my guest this morning is Patrick Berry, former owner of the Westfield News Group. He recently sold the paper to the Republican. So we've been talking about that transition. So where would we talked a little bit about, sort of the history of your taking over the paper and a lot of the challenges that you faced and some of the, sort of the rationale. But I think we finished the last segment, just talking about the fact that one of your concerns was that your employees at the paper didn't, everyone didn't lose a
Everybody's
job
there.
overnight.
Exactly.
So everyone is still there. So I'm wondering, Patrick, over the next, several days and a few weeks, what is the public are they going to see big changes, or is it going to be like, oh, we didn't even realize the paper that Patrick doesn't own it anymore because it looks the same?
If there wasn't an article in the paper last week and us doing this radio show, no one would know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean that's
All right.
and that's good.
Okay. Yes, that is good. That's
Right.
perfect because I think that's what people
What their
want right
future
now.
changes are, I don't know.
Yes,
I'm not
yes.
privy to that. But
Yep.
but yeah, in the short term, nothing's going to change.
So
I
it's
mean,
not going to be like, oh my
No.
gosh, there was this huge takeover.
Nope.
Everybody lost a job, and now
Nope.
I don't even recognize the paper.
Nope.
So okay,
It's
everything should be
exactly
kind
which
of as is.
And that's to their benefit too. Is They want
Absolutely.
to keep consistency.
Absolutely.
Want to keep customers. I mean, they've
Yep.
got a plan in place to grow the subscriptions, and again, in ways that I could only have dreamed of.
Yes.
I didn't have the resources. We talked advertising a little bit ago. And that's what it is. It's subscriptions and advertising keep newspapers and websites afloat.
Yeah.
Advertising is, historically, 75% of your revenue and was advertising, 25% was subscriptions.
No kidding.
That's slowly changing.
okay.
So at the Westfield News, it was probably 60-40.
okay, so
you know,
60% advertising,
Right, and
40%
subscriptions.
Okay.
And again, you look at across the media landscape, print media landscape, that's happening.
Okay.
Because you may not get the product at home anymore, but you still want to get the information, so you get it
Right.
online.
Right.
So the Westfield News online subscription was cheaper than the print subscription.
Okay.
But if you got a print subscription, you also have the online access
Right.
as
yeah.
well. So
yeah.
But and that's going to change eventually. At some point, years
Yes.
down the road, you won't get a paper. I don't think. But
Yeah.
that could be 30 years from now.
Right.
But you have to have the option to have both. But that revenue model is slowly changing from a, primarily ad driven to a primarily subscription driven.
I often wonder about that. I've heard that, that at some day we won't have the print copy of newspapers and magazines and things like that. But in my heart, I always feel like there will be a market for that. It's interesting to me because remember when Kindles first came out, the book, the
Yep.
electronic book, and I have a Kindle. Which I haven't used now in several years. When it first came out, I thought there are some things that I really love about it.
Absolutely.
But there were some technological glitches that I would run into. So I'd be in the middle of a chapter, and all of a sudden, like the screen would be blank, and it wasn't because it wasn't charged.
Right,
it
right.
wasn't because it needed to be charged. And then I'd have to put it away. I'd have to put it down for 15 minutes and shut it off, and then start it up, and then usually it would work. But that was like 15 minutes. I'm like, hey,
I've
this is
already
my
lost interest.
reading
Yeah, I gotta
time.
think
Well,
other things.
plus it's like I have other things to do. And it was funny because I was noticing, I did some flying over the weekend. I was down in Tennessee and I did some flights, and I noticed more people reading books and fewer taking out their electronic devices. And so I don't know, it'll be interesting to see.
My sister's husband, they live halfway between Baltimore and Washington, and my brother-in-law is a bigwig with one of the major global book publishers, right?
Okay.
So he and I
Yeah.
have the business conversations
I would
all the
love
time.
to talk to you. What's his take on this?
His take, initially, it was hard because everybody was like, I'm going digital, going digital, going digital.
yeah,
He
yeah.
goes, our print book sales year over year, quarter over quarter growth is unbelievable. He goes,
No
to your point, he
kidding.
goes, I think a lot of people wanted the electronic version, and then they realized, no, I want the book in my hand.
Yeah.
He said there are certainly some applications for electronic books. He goes, especially in the academia world.
Yeah, I was going to say textbooks because they, you need a wheelbarrow to carry each one
and
around.
I remember my girls, in middle school, elementary school, even into high school, these backpacks that weighed more than them.
Oh, yeah.
and-
Absolutely.
And even into college now.
Yes.
College is a little
Yeah.
bit different. You can leave some books,
Right,
but-
you don't have to take everything with you.
Right.
Oh,
but
yeah.
in the academic world, the electronic version
Yes.
is not a bad idea. But he
Yes.
goes, adults are buying books like never before.
love books.
And he said, the digital revenue is making money, but the print revenue is quarter over quarter, year over
Yeah.
year is just, he goes, we're in a good time right now to be in the print business. I'm like, I do the old cross my arms and go, what?
I know. But,
He goes,
I think
"Absolutely."
the same thing like about magazines. I mean, when you go to the dentist, when you go to the doctor's office, when you go to the hairdresser, I like all those magazines that I don't have subscriptions to, but it's like, oh, what's going on in people? What's the gossip and
Right.
trash,
Right.
or good housekeeping, or, simplification. I mean, there's like all kinds of great magazines.
But we have to have a moment of silence.
Okay, for Mad Magazine. Alfred E. Newman.
Alfred E. Newman is currently with
Yes,
me. He's
yes.
unemployed.
Yeah, there-
Alfred E. Newman
There
and
he
I
is.
are looking for work.
There
So
you
if you
go.
have any jobs out there for
Yeah.
either myself
Yeah.
or Mr. Newman,
Yeah, there
let
you
us
go.
know.
Yeah.
And what's
there
his
you go.
what's his tagline? What, me worry?
Yeah,
Exactly.
what we worry. That's right. Oh my gosh, I
Exactly.
forgot.
I don't
about
have that tagline. I'm worrying.
Oh my god.
But,
Yeah, right.
But yeah, there are some, Mad Magazine, which had been around for a long,
Oh my gosh, forever.
long
Yeah,
time.
forever.
Spy versus spy.
Spy versus Spy. And I want to say, was it 1938, Mad Magazine?
That I
Something
do not
like that.
know.
Yeah, it was.
That-
but again, it's a change in the industry.
Sure.
And I know you made that comment. You like to go to the dentist or not? Well,
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
at the dentist,
Yeah, I like to
and
read
you
magazines.
flip through the
Yeah.
magazines, but. Look at our kids, Grace,
Yes,
Maura,
yeah,
Courtney.
yeah.
They're not flipping through the magazines;
Yeah.
they're flipping through their phone.
Well, they're looking at Facebook. And
but again,
all
this
this
still
other
the
stuff.
same idea. People want that content, whether it's
yes,
I can't
agree
believe
with
these
that,
words
yeah.
are going to come out of my mouth, but whether it's the Kardashians,
Yes.
or whether it's pro sports, whatever you're interested, home and garden, recipes, whatever it is, people want that content.
Yeah.
It's just, how do you get it? Whether you subscribe to National Geographic magazine, and if you're like me, you got stocks of them in your house, nobody will take them.
Nope.
But you can subscribe online and get
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
And then, that's
Yeah.
the great thing about electronic devices is the data's always there and it's not clogging up your house.
Right.
So
Right,
you
right,
can
yeah.
you can move into a tiny home and still have all this stuff.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
but there's a generation like us. We like to print. We like to flip the pages. I've actually started migrating into doing crossword puzzles online versus the print.
Okay.
It's easier to cheat. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah. What's that word mean?
but no.
Yeah.
But there's our kids.
Yes.
It's different.
It
but
is
we need to
different, yeah.
train them, and they need to understand that it's not free.
Right.
That's the biggest problem that
I
the print
agreed.
industry has had
Agreed.
since the dawn of the internet from Al Gore in the 90s.
Yes, exactly.
It's-
Al Gore, who invented the.
and I used to say this to everybody, was Chris Putz, Hope Tremblay, Amy Porter, Lori Zapelek. I list all my reporters, Peter Francis, Peter Courier. They work, they have an income.
Yes.
But they spend time and energy to research and ask the questions.
Yep.
It's not... Well, I heard from somebody that, they're putting in a turf field in Westfield for the athletes.
Yeah, so I'll just write a story about this because this is what I heard.
Yeah, exactly. And that turf field's going to be, ground tire
if
rubber
that
that's
were
going
the
to
case-
contaminate everything, and we're all going to die and have 3 heads.
Right. And if that were the case, you could just have all the seniors doing your reporting. Because if I hear this once, I hear it 1,000 times a day. Well, I heard that.
Exactly.
Blah, blah, blah. And I'm
Right.
thinking, I said, well, where did you hear that? Blah, blah. Who's your, what's your reliable source here?
Well, I heard
Well, my
that...
brother-in-law told me that.
Well,
And
I heard that Martha just won the Mega Millions, and she's giving away $1,000 whoever shows up at her house.
Exactly.
Go do it.
There you go.
Come on.
Exactly.
Martha
So,
who?
Yeah,
right,
But
exactly.
that's the thing is,
Yeah.
and that's where the print industry was behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
Music industry learned instantly.
Yes.
Napster's gone. You can't download a song for free anymore because they learned. Well, wait a minute. And the artists revolted and they said,
Yeah, yes.
you can't don't just give away my stuff.
Yes.
Journalists and authors, I shouldn't say authors also did the same thing, but journalists were behind that.
Yeah.
They never really revolted and said, wait a minute, no,
Yeah.
I'm producing this content. You need to pay for it.
Yes.
So, and unfortunately, that's the news media. But eventually we will be at a point where it will be paid subscription.
Yep.
I mean, we all do it. We all read things for free online. I get
Sure,
it.
sure.
But at some point,
Well, but part of the problem with that is that when you're not paying for it, I think, and you're reading it for free online, you really have to question the accuracy. It's kind of like, well, is this real? Is
Right.
this? Where did this come? Who is the source? Who did do did somebody do the research?
You hit
or
it right there, I think.
You know?
When you read stuff online, is it gossip
What's
or
the source?
on Facebook?
Where
What's
is
the
it?
source?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We would hope, and I've learned to trust most newspapers that they have checked 2 or 3 sources
Right.
to
Absolutely.
verify
You
it.
have to.
Right.
Facebook doesn't do that.
Right. It's
Facebook's, I heard from my neighbor.
Exactly. And then I'm just going to put it out here and, we'll see what happens. But it was funny when I was teaching at Springfield College, and this was several years ago, but I can remember, saying to a student who turned in some paper, this is just inaccurate. And she said, oh, no, that's absolute fact. And I said, all right, well, you didn't quote a source here. So I said, I said, what's your source? She said, oh, I read that on the internet, so it must be true. That was the
Jesus.
thought. This was like, 15, 20 years ago. And I said to her, okay, we need to have a discussion about that. And then I started giving a handout, to here are some examples of reliable internet sources, because it also doesn't mean that everything on the internet is not reliable, but you have to pick and choose, and you have to know where to get the information and who's actually done some research.
As you mature through college, you have to know what's reliable, what's accurate.
You have
That's
to be
part
able
of
to sift through it. But now, we're bombarded. I mean, you go to open up your email and the ads are, the stuff's all over the place. And, it's like, oh, did you hear about this, that, and the other thing? Well, for me, it's sort of like, okay, if you're giving me the score to a game, that's pretty cut and dry. So that's probably, there's not a lot of wiggle room there. They won, they lost, this was the score. But some of this other stuff, so-and-so
Don't get me
something.
going on local scores to games.
Really?
We'll talk about that at another time.
Okay.
But
now you have my interest.
He always does that. He drops this little
just
seed.
before we go to break,
then,
right? So,
just before we go to break. Okay. All right. Yeah, and we probably are ready for a break, so thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so are we at the Tommy James stuff now? Yay! So we're going to listen to Sweet Cherry Wine by Tommy James and the Shondells in honor of Mike Vale's birthday, a member of the group. Okay, so...
Everyone, we got to get together now. Oh yeah, love's the only thing that matters anyhow. And the beauty of life can only survive if we love one another. Oh yeah, yesterday my friends were marching out to war. Oh yeah, but listen now, we ain't marching anymore. No, we ain't gonna fight. Only God has the right to decide who's to live and die. He gave us sweet cherry wine, so very fine. We'll drink it right down, pass it all around, so stimulating, so intoxicating, sweet cherry wine. Everybody's gonna feel so fine, drinking sweet cherry wine. Yes, they will. Watch the mountain turn to dust and blow away. Oh Lord, you know there's got to be a better way. And the old masquerade is an oh-so parade, marching through the ruins of time. Save us, he gave us sweet cherry wine, strawberry wine. We'll drink it right down, pass it all around, so stimulating, so intoxicating, sweet cherry wine. Everybody's gonna feel so fine, drinking sweet cherry wine.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardie siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value. One of our underwriters here at WSKB's Community Radio is Carson Center for Health and Human Services, a nonprofit organization located at 20 Broad Street in Westfield. They provided behavioral health and rehabilitation services in communities throughout Western Massachusetts since 1963. There are services for children, adolescents, adults, families, and couples. You can find them on the web at carsoncenter.org or at 413-572-4132.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is Wednesday, July 17th. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and we are broadcasting from Westfield State University from our radio studio here, WSKB studio here. Behind the board is Jay Pagluca. And Jay, I thank you again for filling in for Pete Coles while he's a little under the weather right now.
No worries.
So thank you. And my guest this morning is the former owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Berry. That paper was recently sold to the Republican. So Patrick, you've kind of given us a little bit of a history about why you brought the paper and your vision for the paper, what's happened, and some of the challenges for, its ownership of a small local paper. But I wanted, my husband has a great saying, Gary's saying is, okay, let's not look through the rear view mirror, let's look through the windshield. Yeah. So let's look ahead to you have now stepped aside. Yep. So, and your reporters and, your staff is still there. But who now from the Republican? I'm assuming somebody's kind of stepped in from the Republican. So let's talk about those changes.
Just one point of clarification.
Sure.
The Westfield News is actually owned by the Reminder out of East Long Meadow.
Okay, gotcha.
The Reminder is owned by the Republicans. So in a sort of roundabout way, the Republican
So the Republican is kind of the umbrella owner, but it's actually the Reminder. Okay.
And because of that, so there's a gentleman named Fran Smith, who is the general manager of the Reminder in East Long Meadow.
Gotcha.
He is now also the general manager of the Westfield News Group.
Okay.
Fran's a Westfield guy.
Yay!
He's been in Westfield for, I forget what he said, 32 years.
Okay.
And he's not that much older than I am. Okay. His kids grew up through the school system, so he's a local guy.
He's very Westfield oriented.
Exactly. So over the last several months of the negotiations and whatever, when I learned that Fran was a Westfield guy, that put my mind at ease tremendously because he comes into it knowing Westfield.
Yeah, he gets it.
He pays taxes here. His kids went through the system. He's involved. He does so he's like me 8 years ago.
Right. He's invested in the city because he lives here. He's a resident.
Right. So that put my mind at ease tremendously because he's here. He's in it. So, and I think, my former employee is the same way. But Fran's got two different jobs. He's going to be running back and forth between Westfield and East Long Meadow all the time and whatever responsibility he has in Springfield. But that certainly benefits Westfield, that you've got somebody like me who's here and invested. So you also have Hope Tremblay, who I rehired back to the Westfield News Group in May as director of content. And that was done strategically because I knew this was coming. Mm-hmm. Because part of the fear on the other end, on the other side of the table with the Reminder folks was, who's going to be the face of the business?
Yes.
So Hope Tremblay has been a reporter in Westfield for many
forever.
years.
We've known Hope for a long time.
Everyone.
Yep.
So in me returning Hope to the Westfield News Group, that added that sort of face of the paper. Yep. Flora Mascadrelli, who was my director of sales, has been around for 5 years. I think she's related to everyone.
Yes. I see Flora everywhere. Every event that I go to, every fundraiser that I go to, Flora's there.
She and Hope are very involved in the community, and then you add their new boss, Fran Smith, on top of that, who's very involved. So visually, Patrick's not there anymore, but nothing's changed. The paper's still involved in everything. You've got employees who live in the community, care about the community. So nothing really changes, and that's a good thing. And then if you look at people who aren't directly on School Street. Some of the other people I've learned, like the Westfield News's HR person, who's actually the corporate HR person at
Human
the Republican
Resources.
for all this. She lives in Westfield. Her
Okay.
kids go to the school system. She's a younger woman, but she's got kids in the local
perfect.
schools. So there is a good Westfield connection. So it's not like I sold it to a company based out of Nashville.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to put
That's out of the
somebody
state.
here
Yes.
to run it who has no idea.
Right.
It's a really smooth transition. And again, that again put my mind at ease through all of this. Is no one will know, really.
Yeah, a lot
other
of
than-
continuity, and
Yeah.
I think that's really important because
Exactly.
I agree with you, Patrick. I think the thing that people fear the most is when it's some out of state group.
Right.
It's like they don't know Westfield, they don't even know Massachusetts, they're not even
Exactly.
here. So
Right.
here we have people that not only are local, they're city local,
Yeah.
residents. So
And-
really
and
understand
again,
the community.
Even if you think of Western Mass, we all know East Long Meadow.
Sure.
We all know Wilbraham,
Yeah.
Chicopee, Holyoke. Because we go to these communities all the time, whether it's to visit family, shopping, dentists, doctors, whatever it might be. So, again, to your point, it's not somebody coming in for a group
Right.
coming in from somewhere else who knows nothing about the community. These guys are ingrained in all of Western Mass,
Right.
not just Westfield. So, and that also helps the bigger paper.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it helps to put Westfield in the context of the larger local
Right.
community. So, super important.
And one of the things I always touted, since I took over, is the importance of Westfield to Western Mass. So Westfield is the fourth largest community in Western Mass. Springfield's the biggest. Then you have Chicopee, Pittsfield, Westfield. And over the years, Holyoke has shrunk, but Holyoke
Yes,
is right
yeah.
behind Westfield.
Population-wise,
so there's
it
your
has.
five biggest communities. Westfield is one of them. And I learned this from former Senator Mike Knappich. And that was, if you look at the Route 10 and 202 corridor, okay, so basically from the Connecticut line down in Southwick up to Northampton, really,
Okay.
through the Hamptons, Southampton.
so that north-south,
Right,
yep.
exactly.
Okay.
He said, that is so important to the State House because
Really?
of... We got our own hospital. We got our own airport. We got a turnpike interchange. A lot of things the mayors
Yes.
and city advancement officers have talked about the importance of Westfield. So when Mike told me that, I dug in a little bit more to the population of the Route 10 and 202 corridors. Okay, the numbers may have changed over the course of the last few years with updated population data, but a few years ago, Westfield was the 28th largest population in the state.
Okay.
Westfield.
Yes.
42,000 people was Westfield.
Yep.
If you added in the communities that the Westfield News service, so Southwick, Granville, Tolland, Huntington, Blandford, Russell, yada, 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 17th largest population lived in that Route 10-202 corridor.
Yeah.
So then, I really understood Mike Knappich's point of
Right.
how important that is.
Right.
So if you rewind 10 years and you look at the downtown development, redoing that 10-202 corridor.
Yes.
Southwick redid their portion.
Yes.
Southampton redid their portion. East Hampton, so you kind of
Yes.
take a look and you go,
Yes.
all right, this is an important part of the
Right.
state. There's a
Right.
lot of economy here, a lot of jobs here, a lot of population here. So that, again, is really why Westfield needs its own paper. And
Well,
it needs a daily paper.
Right. And I agree. It's interesting because I have had this conversation with other directors, other council on aging directors throughout the state, and with other providers in the area, home health agencies and, people who work in hospitals and, people that work just in the aging, with the aging population. And I've said to them, my experience with Westfield seniors, particularly those who I would say are 80 and older, maybe even 75 and older, is that, if they had their druthers, they would never leave Westfield. And when I say that, I mean for any of their services. But when you look at Westfield, and this is what I've said too, as you just pointed out, we have our own airport, we have our own hospital, we have our own university, we have a Boys and Girls Club, we have an Athenaeum, we have all of those, we have a, what I still consider to be a brand new senior center. So, we've got the Children's Museum. I mean, we've got Stanley Park. You really have, you've got grocery stores, you've got doctors' offices, you have pretty much everything you need. And we laugh at the senior center because when we have seniors who have to get transported to Springfield for a doctor's appointment, they're kind of like insulted. It's sort of like, well, why do I have to go all the way out there? Why can't we just, it's pretty much everything I need is right here in Westfield. But I think it speaks to your point about how important the city is within Western Massachusetts and within the state.
So to put the
expand
icing
on that.
So for 3 years, I ran the press room coffee shop out of the front of the Westfield News. Okay.
Yes.
And because of where we were located, down on School Street, there was a lot of college housing around there.
Yes.
So I met a lot of college students, and a lot of their parents would come through, on move-in weekend,
Yes.
throughout the
Yes.
throughout
Parents'
the
weekend,
school,
graduation weekend, whatever.
And parents and these students who aren't from Westfield, they're the eastern part of the state, wherever and this is what really hammered it home with me is I would hear it constantly. Westfield is such a cool town. I wish my town was like this.
Mm-hmm.
But again,
Yeah.
we're no different. I could go to that student's town and be like, wow, this is a cool little.
Yeah.
What's wrong with Natick? It's beautiful. What's
Yeah,
wrong
yeah.
with Swampscott? It's
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah.
But when you live there,
Yes.
you don't necessarily. You can't see the forest through the trees.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
I moved
No
to New
doubt.
York in 1990, and I start working there, and I'm, working with New Yorkers, and they've never been to the Statue of Liberty, never been to Ellis Island, never been to Wall Street,
Never saw the
never saw
Rockettes.
the things, right?
Yeah.
Never stepped foot in Central Park, and I'm like, how is this possible?
Yeah.
It's the same idea.
Right.
You go to pick a community anywhere.
Yep.
It's always beautiful there because you vacation there. You have this image in your head
Yep.
that I was on vacation. I was relaxing there. It's beautiful there.
Yep.
But if you live there, it's different.
See, it's so interesting because my theory is that someday when I retire, if I ever retire, I may be that 25% who never does. But
I'm telling you, it's wonderful. Join it.
Someday,
Come
there
into
you
the
go.
water.
Come to
It's
the other
beautiful.
side, Patrick. Come to the other side. But someday, I keep saying to people, when I retire, I want to retire to Western Massachusetts because I want to be able to do all the things that Western Mass affords us the opportunity to do that I don't really have the time right now because I work so many hours. But I had that conversation with Gary. We were in North Carolina several years ago. And we were kind of, thinking about, someday would we want to move down here and, blah, blah, blah. And I remember saying to him, one of the attractions to wherever we were, I can't even remember what part of the state, was kind of like, yeah, this is a lot like Western Mass. And that's when I think, boing, it hit me. And I said, well, hello, we have all these things up there. I mean, they have winter down there, and we were kind of in the mountains is where we were looking, and we have that, and I just thought to myself, someday we'll be able to go to every single musical thing that's available to us and every single show. I mean, think of all the shows you're so involved in, supporting and sponsoring Berkshire Theater and all this stuff. There was so much to do.
Exactly. And it's interesting because if you think about it, you can literally get to some of the best skiing in an hour.
Yes.
You go travel 2 hours and you're at some of the greatest skiing on the planet Earth.
Yeah.
Beaches, mountains.
Yes.
I mean, culture and arts, from the museums in Pittsfield in the Berkshire County to Boston.
Yep.
Sports teams. Western Mass is really a great spot.
It's an awesome spot.
And you need to periodically take a higher level look at it.
Right.
And I get it. I'm in the same boat. I own a house here. I still own the property on School Street that the Westfield News operates out of, so I'm paying taxes for both. I get it. Taxes are going up, but it is. I give everyone who runs for elected office, no matter where, but especially in Westfield, I give them a lot of credit.
Yeah, you have said that always.
Because, people complain a lot about our city councilors and our mayors, and if you take a step back and look at it, how much time they're giving of themselves, and I look at some of these people like a Matt Emershire or a Brent Bean who still have young kids. It
takes away a lot from your family.
Conversely, you've got Marianne Babinski or Ralph Figge who are retired and can devote the time. But the youngers, Dave Flaherty, kids.
Oh my God,
it is,
David!
It is,
between
it's not
Eagle,
a 2-hour
between Boy Scouts and
it's
everything
not a
else that he
2-hour
does.
meeting on the first and third Thursday of the month.
Right.
It is meetings every night, subcommittee. And it may not be official meetings. It might be I got to go to City Hall to meet with the mayor. I got to go meet with Dave Billups. I got to go meet Mark
And it's
Cressati.
1,000 hours of phone calls
Oh
and
my
emails
God.
that nobody even sees. It's not an official
right.
meeting, but in preparation for the meeting, here's 16 emails that
and
went
then
back and
all
forth.
the stuff that's been done leading to the council meeting. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
applaud anybody who runs for
Yep.
office
Yep.
and does it.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah.
but it's hard. Westfield's got a lot of roads. We get it.
It's a big city. Square
is
mileage.
It
It's
is
a big
right.
city.
And, some people call it the second largest acreage-wise.
Yep.
Some people call it the third.
Yep.
It's Boston. Boston is the biggest, physically largest city geographically.
Yep.
And then Plymouth and Westfield kind of debate it. But anyway.
Yep.
But
They're
yeah,
big.
but again, you look at Westfield, East Main Street shops, Funzee is coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this conversation with people. I go, retail's not what it once was, and it most likely never will be.
Right.
So Westfield, actually, and it's not Westfield. I got to stop saying that because it's the
everybody.
property owners need to attract things that are internet proof. And as
Right.
Joe Mitchell said, Amazon proof.
Right.
It's entertainment.
Yep.
Eating, drinking, and being entertained.
Yep.
Those are the things that are going to
Right.
Look at East Hampton. Look at
Yes.
Northampton.
Yep.
It's the eating establishments, the drinking establishments, the entertainment
And
that are
services,
drawing people.
I mean, you can't get your hair cut on the internet. Like, you have to
Exactly.
find a hairdresser. I mean,
Exactly.
things like that. You can't
Right.
get your clothes dry cleaned on the internet.
So
You gotta,
people say, why are there so many pizza places in town? Why are there so many barbers in town?
Well, that's why.
'Cause you can't do it
you
on
can't
the
do
internet.
it on the internet.
Right.
You can't,
Exactly.
dial into
And
Amazon.
That's how any community in the country is going to
Yeah.
survive, is entertainment. And as the population grows, people want to be entertained.
Right.
So get out and support the Funzies of the world.
Yep.
Get out and support the music venues, the arts and the entertainment. It's so important because you go out to you go out to a show at night.
Yep.
You know what? Go down an hour and a half early and grab dinner.
Or, afterward, let's go, we'll go
have a drink.
we'll go have
Exactly.
a
Soda,
nightcap
coffee,
somewhere. Yeah,
decaf,
exactly.
whatever.
Yeah.
But get out and support it because it's so important. You're not going to be able to go to a Fava. Fava's gone. You can't get your shoes at Fava anymore.
Right.
Cute Kitty's gone. I love the concept. Moriarty shoes,
Yeah.
Finds. They're great. They're great memories, but they're gone.
Yeah.
Look at Holyoke Mall.
Well, I think
Completely
a
different.
lot of the malls, and a lot of the malls are really looking at, okay, now we have this big space, and so how do we want to utilize that? And some of them are coming up with some pretty creative.
And some of those creative ideas are housing.
Yes.
So
Housing
they're-
with some service right there.
So you think about a major city apartment complex. You've got 20 stories or whatever of apartments above, and on the bottom you've got a drugstore, you've got a bodega, or
Little post
convenience
office.
store.
Exactly.
Yep. That's what malls are looking at.
Exactly.
And
I think
and they
that's-
got plenty
I
of
think that's-
parking.
Yep. And they've got a lot of parking. I think that's such a great use of space. I'm
Exactly.
glad that they're, really thinking outside of the box. Which
So and Westfield will get there. Westfield will
I
get
think
there.
so.
Jay's telling us we need to take a break.
we do. We need to take a break. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses. This one's by Tommy James and the Shondells, and it is Mone Mone.
You got me talking, telling me
Moly, 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 moly,
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Noble Hospital, a brand new name for a Westfield institution which is improving the health of our community every day with quality and compassion. Noble Hospital and Bay State Health, better together.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is Wednesday, July 17th. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and we are broadcasting this morning from Westfield State University. Behind the boards is Jay Pagluca. Jay, good morning again, and thanks for helping out this morning.
Always happy to join you.
My guest this morning is the former owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Berry. Welcome again, Patrick.
Good morning, my friend.
So before we get kind of wrap up Patrick's piece on here, I do want to make a few announcements about some upcoming programs at the Westfield Senior Center. So we were talking about theater and shows and music and so forth. So we have a couple of things going on at the Senior Center, specifically for some of our older adults. This is actually an intergenerational program. This is a pilot program. We're doing an intergenerational theater, and the show will be Friday, July 19th, so that's coming up in just a couple of days. We have two performances, 1:30 and 4:30. The name of the show is Flashbacks. It's an original play written and directed by Westfield native Steve Henderson, and we are doing this in conjunction and collaboration with Mallory Ray over at the Boys and Girls Club. So the way this has been working is that the two groups have been rehearsing separately for several weeks, and then this week they have come together to rehearse together for the show on Friday. So this is an intergenerational show. It is complete with, we have older adults, we have younger kids, and we even have a guide dog involved in the show that Steve has managed to write into the play. So you can get your tickets at the Senior Center. They are free, but we're just asking people to get their tickets so that we know how many chairs we're setting up, and we anticipate a nice crowd for that. So anyway, and I do want to mention that the funding for this performance has been provided in part with a grant from the Westfield Cultural Council, which is supported by the Massachusetts Cultural Council, and additional funding from the Friends of the Westfield Senior Center. So we thank those groups for that. In addition, here's one for you, Jay, because I know you're all things Westfield music. We have started an acoustic guitar group. So if you play the acoustic guitar and you're an older adult, if you would like to share techniques, songs, instrumentals, or just jam with other guitar players, we started this last Wednesday. It's every Wednesday from 1 to 2 in the Creativity Center at the Senior Center. Larry O'Brien is the senior who came to Mary Lou, my program director, and myself, and said, do you think this would fly? And we said, well, it doesn't cost anything. We'll give you a space. We'll give you time, and let's try it. So week one, we had 5 people that came with their guitars and were jamming and playing. And Lori Sapalik has been working on a story for that for the paper. So
sounds wonderful.
If you're interested in that, it's just a great group, and it's co-ed. I think we had either 2 women, 3 men, or 3 women, 2 men. So pretty evenly balanced
guitar
there.
Players generally will tend to sing a little bit. I see that just growing into something wonderful.
Well, look at Harry Rock.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
So we're all about that. We're also offering a computer literacy and keyboarding skills class. This is for somebody who is completely computer illiterate, and this is in collaboration with Westfield Community Education. So it's a 4-session course, Mondays and Wednesdays, starting July 29th and ending on August 7th from 9:30 to 11:30 in the Senior Center Learning Center. And you do need to call because it's just a small group. We'll have 8 people in that class. So just call if you'd like. It's free of charge. Just let us know, 562-6435. And my last announcement, which I want to get this in there because I won't be on air live again until after we do this program, but we're doing a program, a an educational program on urinary incontinence. It's called Breaking the Silence. Our own wellness nurse, Mary Ellen Asher, who is a gift from Bay State Noble Hospital, will be presenting this. So that will be on Tuesday, July 23rd from 9:30 to 10:30 at the Senior Center. We know that urinary incontinence is prevalent. We know it can be embarrassing. We know it can be expensive if you need to use incontinence supplies, which, by the way, we also have as donations at the Senior Center.
What is incontinence?
Incontinence is when, well, there are kind of two forms of it. One is that you don't know that you have to either urinate or defecate, depending on whether it's urinary or total incontinence. One is that you don't feel the sensation. People who are paralyzed would be incontinent because they can't feel.
Right.
But sometimes if you're on certain medications, it can cause it. If you have certain other chronic diseases, it can cause it. Women, after they've had a baby, sometimes are incontinent, where it only in certain circumstances, if they start laughing too hard or they start doing strenuous exercises. So it's like a leakage problem. But what a lot of people don't know is that urinary incontinence, there are treatments for it, and not all necessarily medication. Sometimes it requires medication or surgery. Sometimes it's just abdominal exercises, Kegel exercises. A lot of women have learned those when they went through childbirth. So that's what it is. But again, it's one of those problems that can snowball. And I've had people that have holed themselves up in their house or apartment and they won't come out because it's like, oh my gosh, what if I have an accident and it's embarrassing and I can't talk to anybody about it? So they make up excuses for their friends and their family as to why they're not going to somebody's birthday or graduation party. So we did this a few years ago, and we had a lot of success with just putting it out there and saying, hey, you know what, guys? It's no different than diabetes or a heart condition. It's a condition. It's a medical condition. Let's talk about, the causes, the treatments, and because the complications can be pretty severe. So my guest, that voice that you hear, is Patrick Berry, former owner of the Westfield News Group. Patrick has been talking to us, about the transition to the Reminder in East Longmeadow, right?
Correct.
That's who will now own the paper.
Correct.
So some final thoughts that you want to leave folks with?
First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to everybody who supported the newspaper over the past 8 years, 3 weeks since in my ownership. Your support really did not go unnoticed. So thank you all very much for that. I'm excited for the next chapter. It's interesting. It's, the paper is being run and managed by a local person. Fran Smith here in Westfield is the new general manager. So he's involved in the community. So the transition for you as a reader, you're not going to notice too much.
Right.
They'll have some changes down the road.
Yes,
they have their
course.
own ideas, just like I did 8 years ago.
Yep.
But it was a wonderful, wonderful thing in my life. I had never owned a business before, so I learned how to be a small business owner. I never ran a newspaper before. I was always in the media business, so owning a small media business in the print industry was new to me. Mm-hmm. But again, and I go back 8+ years ago, friends of mine would say, well, what the hell do you know about owning a newspaper? I go, I don't need to, I just know how to run the business. I've got reporters, I've got salespeople, I've got business people, they're doing the work. I just need to make sure costs are managed and they have the direction under me. And every one of those employees, we've had some changeover. People have come and gone over the years, some retirements, some quits and whatever. Sure. But all of the employees were wonderful. I loved every one of those. I still love every one of those people in that building. And it was emotional saying goodbye. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
it was. I get a little teared up now.
Well, there would have been something.
Hard.
Yeah, there would have been something wrong if it wasn't emotional.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say, Patrick, on behalf of Westfield's older adults, I would like to thank you personally. I mean, we have gotten to be very good friends through our run with WSKB, but also, when we were in the process of, before we even built the new senior center, but when we were in the process of trying to get people on board to understand why we needed it, you worked so closely with me and with the building committee to, make sure that it stayed on everybody's radar screen. We had so many front page articles, and a lot of, I can tell you that there are a lot of other directors out there that wish that they were in my situation with having it's a daily local paper that was constantly keeping us on the radar screen. And then since we've opened, just being so gracious and wonderful about posting our pictures so that people know this is what
It's
goes
a
on. And I
resource.
absolutely have had people that have come in and said, I've never been in this building, but geez, I keep seeing you guys in the paper. So what's going on down
it's
here?
It's funny you say it, but that's what a local community paper should do.
Agreed.
It's not that I did that because of any other reason, but that was important. Harry Rock said the same thing to me about our coverage of the 350. I go, I would be embarrassed if we didn't do that coverage, because that's what a community newspaper is about.
Yeah.
No one else is covering the 350, and Southwick's 250 is next year.
Yep.
But those are the sorts of things. The Babe Ruth World Series is coming up in a couple of weeks.
Exactly.
That's low. That's what a community paper's about.
It impacts
you
our
wanna know
life.
what's going on. Crepes Tea House.
Yeah.
Those are the things. Funzie coming in. Those are the things you need to know about.
Absolutely. So we'll continue with that. And with the Westfield News, it'll still be the Westfield News.
Absolutely.
It'll still be coming out 6 days a week. And we'll look forward to those changes. And Patrick, we'll have you back on in 6 months when you've got your whatever new
Whatever
thing
I'm
that you're
doing. Who
doing.
knows?
And we'll see where that goes.
Come on, Megabucks.
Folks, thank you so much. You've been listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses, and Jay Pagluca. Thank you one more time. So many thanks. I know this was, time consuming for you, and I really appreciate it. So does Patrick.
No worries at all. And Patrick, my thanks as well.
Thank you.
It's been a fun ride, and I know we have some adventures planned together. Too, so it'll be a lot of
Jay
fun.
already asked me, so you're working full time on Gaslight Entertainment?
Yeah, see you there. So-
for now I can.
So stay tuned.
When the sun comes up people got me questioning. Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? The love?
It just ain't the same, always in change. New days are strange, is the world insane? If love and peace is so strong, why are the pieces of love that don't belong? Nations dropping bombs, chemical gases filling lungs of little ones with ongoing suffering as the youth are young. So ask yourself, is the loving really gone? So I could ask myself, really what is going wrong in this world that we living in? People keep on giving in, making wrong decisions, only visions of them dividends, not respecting each other, denying the